Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome to Nightingale. So, this is the latest entry into the survival games space, and one that I've been looking forward to for quite a while and really enjoying the last few days. So, the plan today is to take a look at the game, have a little chat about sort of what's going on with it, what it's like, and my early impressions, and take a look at an early game base as well. So, yeah, I'm really enjoying this so far. I've been looking forward to Nightingale for a while. It's got a really cool style and tone. It fits in quite a nice little gap in the survival market, which is really cool because there are quite a lot of games out there. So the basic premise behind Nightingale is that it is set in a sort of pseudo-Victorian era, Victorian-ish level of technology, where humanity managed to access alternate dimensions, specifically the Fey realms, via a series of man-made portals, discovering that in these realms are also Fey-made, I suppose, portals as well. Following a catastrophe, you become stranded in the Fey realms with no way back to Nightingale, this paragon of human cities, and have to rely on the Fey portal network in order to try and traverse the Fey realms and hopefully eventually get back there. So it's quite a visually different vibe. The game is very sort of AAA in its appearance. It's using sort of the latest modern version of the Unreal Engine. It looks really, really cool. It's a lot of fun. It is, at its core, a survival game. It does what you'd expect from survival games. It has, you start off with basically nothing and have to build your way up through different levels of equipment, starting off with, a rock on a stick for a weapon and progressing up to Victorian-era equivalent firearms. There's also a magic system and base building system, as obviously we're going to have a look at in just a moment. And yeah, it's really cool. The game looks absolutely stunning. It's got a kind of odd, weird twist on it with the whole Feywild setting, which is fun. It's therefore a little different and differentiates itself from other survival games. Where some survival games like, say, Valheim lean towards being really, really difficult, and on the other end of the scale you've got something more like Enshrouded, which is much, much more approachable. Nightingale sits somewhere in the middle, so that's pretty cool. It gets pretty darn complicated, especially on the crafting side of things. But the building system seems to be fairly approachable, which is quite cool. It is an early access game, and it is kind of priced accordingly, which is cool. It's not too bad at the moment. It's also on offer as of time of making a video, so worth having a look at from that perspective if you're interested as well. One of my general gripes with survival games as a genre is a lot of the time you find they don't have a great deal on the story side of things. It's all about the sort of gameplay loop and mechanics, and less story-based. Which is fine, I understand why that is the case. There's a lot of nuance and stuff, frankly, for the developers to be working on, even before you start considering stories. But Nightingale is being developed by Inflexion, who are actually a new studio. This is their first game, but they are made up of, amongst others, a large proportion of people who used to work at BioWare, including the studio head. So, unsurprisingly, given that heritage, they have quite a lean towards story, and Nightingale seems to have a lot more story in it, a lot more lore that you can find scattered around the worlds, and yeah, that's a promising different take on it, which I'm really happy to see as well. The game does have a couple of shortcomings. One of the big things that people seem to be talking about with reviews at the moment is the fact it's always online. Yeah, personally, I think it's a bit overblown of a complaint, but nonetheless, the devs have actually come out in the last couple of days and said, although it wasn't their original plan, based on the feedback, they are planning on figuring out and implementing an offline version, offline mode for the game going forward. As I say, it's early access, so this might take a little while. It was not part of the original plan, but it is something they're looking into and planning to do in the future, so that's cool for people who are concerned about that. There's a couple of other things that need working on. The UI is a little bit messy at times. The menus are not the easiest to navigate. They are very complicated, and there's a heck of a lot of information thrown at you visually at once. So hopefully that will be worked on going forward. They have already taken on a lot of feedback in that area and apparently improved things, and hopefully will continue to do so, which is cool. The other thing that I find a bit weird, although this is apparently an intermittent thing as well, is loading times don't seem to be getting talked about a lot, but they are quite long. Some of that's to be expected, given that the way the game works. You head to portals, you use the realm card system, which basically has you make or find cards which can determine the characteristics of the realm you wish to access. So you might choose the biome. Right now there's only 3 biomes, they'll be adding more going forward. And you choose another card which modifies that in varying ways, a lot of varying ways, and they will be adding more to that side of things as well. You put those two things together, open the portal, and on the back end, the servers are generating a world procedurally based on the choices you have made. So that kind of explains why some of the loading times are a bit on the longer side. It's building the worlds from the ground up, but at other times it can be a bit of a drag as well. So hopefully that'll get improved. As I say, this is literally the first few days of early access, so we can expect things to be polished up and moving forward. Compared to other games, this seems to have a very, very nuanced crafting system. A lot of games, well, some games go for a simpler, or one variation on a resource kind of vibe, and the advancement tends to be a little bit quicker in some of those games, and others go for a more nuanced, more complicated approach to that. Nightingale's leaning more that direction, so if you're really into the crafting stuff, you'll enjoy it. If you'd rather just bash through the crafting stuff, might not be the game for you. It has a magic system as well, and that is tied to the weapons and gear that you craft. You can apply magical effects to it, you can upgrade gear, and then sort of use that as the basis for casting spells, which is quite cool. And I have barely scratched the surface on both the crafting system in general and the weapons and gear that is available, and including the base building system as well, because I can kind of tell from the way the game is set up that there is a huge amount out there that I have yet to get to in the very beginnings of the game. Even the tutorial is quite long, to be fair, and having got through what feels like the tutorial, I feel like there's still a lot more that I'm going to be learning and a lot more that the game's going to be teaching me going forward. So this is not a fast-paced game. It's definitely not the sort of thing you knock out in a weekend. It's going to be much more of a slow burn, which is, again, it's a different place in the wider survival genre as well, which is quite fun. Looking at the combat side of things, I've been quite enjoying that so far. My weapon availability at the minute is very, very limited because very early game. I'm basically using two-handed weapons at the moment, axes, things like that. Feels good. The pacing seems pretty good. The weapons feel reasonably unique. The reach is actually longer than you often find in games, and it feels more realistic for that. You can switch between attacking and blocking quite fluidly and nicely, and it does feel quite good. The game will also include ranged weapons up to and including firearms, circa the sort of Victorian era, and I haven't got anything really to offer on that front at the moment because I haven't got that far yet. Slow burn game, this is just the early game stuff. I've used a kind of crossbow-like slingshot, and it's basically a slingshot in the shape of a crossbow, and it's about as effective as you'd imagine that would be, which is, it's hilariously fun to use. Not least of all because of the sound, and it's kind of firing small rocks that go plunk at things, and it's hilarious, I love it. But not massively effective, but then again, it's really, really basic, so we'll have to see what happens as we expand and explore down the line going forward. Speaking of expanding and exploring down the line, I am streaming the game, so if you want to check out my first few sessions, there's a playlist on those. I'll link that in the top right corner somewhere for you. And yeah, you can catch up on that, or you could join us for live streams going forward as well. Same thing goes for Enshrouded, another survival game that I'm playing at the moment, and of course Fallout if you want to check that out, and a few other bits and pieces too. So, the building system is pretty cool. It is quite simple to use. You basically place the ghost of whatever thing you want to build, foundation, wall, roof, whatever, and then come back with the resources and put them into that ghost in order to form the piece that you might want to build. It makes the flow quite nice for it, as you can basically plan out your whole building without having to stop to go and get more resources or anything. If you run out, you can have the whole thing planned out, then deal with the collecting of resources and the building up of whatever structure you're working on. It works quite nicely. Again, it feels like it's going to be massive and open-ended, though I haven't really got anywhere near that yet because this is the early game and I've got a lot of ground still to cover, and I'm very much looking forward to that. But first impressions, it's approachable, simple to use. There's a lot of areas where they've done really well. One of my favourite things so far is that you can pick up storage containers and move them without having to empty them first. Fantastic addition. Other games need this. Not all games, some get that right as well, but yeah, that's a cool little thing. There are other games that do some things better as well, which is about what you'd expect really in a ever-expanding space like the survival genre. So, with that all discussed, let's jump in and actually have a look at my early game base. Okay, so here is my rather small and cozy little early game base build. So, where I am at the moment, just to give you an overview, is that I have basically just got beyond the end of what I think is the main tutorial, just past the first boss, and moved on a little small amount from there. So I've encountered 2 traders so far, and basically cleaned them out of all the plans that they have, the recipes that they have, which seems to be the main way that you get new crafting recipes and plans, and also for building as well. So I've cleaned those 2 guys out, and that's basically as far as I've got, and this is pretty much everything that's available at this point. So, I keep saying barely scratch the surface, and it is the way I'm feeling about this at the moment. It seems like there's so much more to find out. But I've kind of put the two early game building sets together, which is obviously the wood and the stone here, for a little bit of contrast, mixed materials and stuff like that. Decided not to build upwards, because in terms of decor and stuff to actually put inside, I'm very, very limited for now at least. But we can head on in, and as we can see, the basic sets look alright. They look like basic sets, but they're really nicely done, so I think it's pretty cool. Kind of wish I had glass in the windows, but you can't have everything. And yeah, I'm a bit Spartan at the minute, but it's coming on okay. Do excuse the slight vibration there. That's me standing on something I'm not meant to be standing on, rather than the game having too many issues. I've just managed to walk on the furniture somehow. But yeah, as you say, you've got slightly basic setup here at the moment. Got a trunk there next to my bed. Some weird kind of combination of textures and colours and stuff here, which I think will be less of an issue the further we get on into the game, but there's some odd contrasts here. And yeah, not a lot in the way of furniture. There's a lot of crafting stuff and some storage stuff and a few bits and pieces and lights, but we'll have to unlock a whole bunch more as we go on. This is a reasonable start, I think. There's a lot of stuff in here that I haven't quite figured out as well. Because we have the core workbenches, the basic workbenches here, and I suspect there's a whole bundle more of those to unlock as well. But there's also add-ons for them, like the bellows next to the furnace there, that are supposed to, I think, open up new recipes, although the exact ins and outs of that we'll have to dive into in the next little while. But I think the game will probably explain that as and when it comes up, rather than trying to overload me with information, because there seems to be a vast amount. We've got a nice couple of little sort of side sheds here that lean onto the side of the main house, which I felt was kind of the way to go for the crafting spaces. An interesting thing you have got with these things, though, is that the positioning of your workbench and its efficiency is affected by the other things around it. So having lights nearby means that they're well illuminated and they craft faster. And same thing for having heat nearby. Although one interesting thing, it's not purely a distance relationship, although that is a big part of it. If there is a wall, particularly a big stone wall like this one, in between your crafting bench and, say, your cooking station, you won't get the benefits of it being warm, or the heat from the cooking station. So that's an interesting thing to consider. But we already, this early in the game, have a lot of different bits and pieces. You've got a spinning wheel, and a tanner's bench, and a workbench, and an upgrade station, and something else that I've already forgotten over there as well, plus everything on the other side as well. So loads of stuff already, and so much more I suspect coming as well. These big wooden trunks, though, are pretty cool. They are pretty massive in terms of their storage space, especially compared to the little wicker baskets there, which are your starting storage options. And they're available really quickly on for very, very basic resources, which is really, really nice. I think they've done really well on that. So, yeah, at least storage is not going to be an early game issue too much, and it'll be easily overcome. Yeah. For just getting my feet under me and just getting out into the realms setup, I'm kind of happy with this. Decided to put a couple of internal doors here between the lean-tos, as running around the outside got an old fast. But yeah, I do quite like this all in all. Looking forward to diving into the system more and exploring it. Do think these planters out front look nice, but they need more plants in them rather than just one. Because, you know, big box, tiny plant. But yeah, all in all, I think the system's coming together quite nicely for a just little starter setup. Got everything I need, got a bit of room to expand as and when I get more plans going forward as well, which hopefully we'll be doing during the course of next week. Yeah, all in all, enjoying Nightingale, looking forward to seeing where this goes. So, I hope you folks found this useful and informative, and if you're enjoying the look of it, then stick around, drop subs and likes, I very much appreciate. Down below, as always, social media links, merch store, channel memberships on the blue join button as well if you want to support the channel that way. Really helps out, and I hugely appreciate that. And if you get a chance to join us for live streams, as I say as well, we're having a lot of fun with Nightingale and beyond as well. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.